जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी यमुना तीरवनचारी यमुना तीरवनचारी यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधे। जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधे। जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद। जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव। नित्य गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। नित्य गौरा हरि बोल नित्य गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौरा हरि बोल। श्री राधा गोपीनाथ की श्री प्रभुपाद की नित्य गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So, Hare Krishna everyone, and welcome to this evening's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Firstly, I would like to thank Ghanshyam Prabhuji and Mathura Gokul Mataji for giving me this opportunity to speak, especially during this very auspicious month. I'm still learning, so if I do happen to make a mistake, please forgive me. So the topic for discussion today is the Rishabdev prayers. So the discussion between Lord Rishabdev and his sons, or the teachings that Lord Rishabdev gave to his sons. So before we start the actual class, let's do Bangla turn. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitancha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Paramami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, welcome again, everybody. So, this is going to be a two-class discussion that we're going to have together. So, today and next Thursday. So, we'll start off with some background information, I guess, on Rishabdev, and then we'll get into some of his teachings that he had with his son. So, Rishabdev was an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Lord has 6 incarnations. So the 6 are Purusha, Leela, Guna, Manvantara, Yuga, Shakti Avesha, and Shakti Avesha Avatar. So Lord Rishabdev was a Shakti Avesha Avatar. So another example of a Shakti Avesha Avatar is the 4 Kumaras, Narada, Brahma, Pashuram, and Vyasadeva. So a Shakti Avesh avatar is a Jeev, so they're in the form of a human or a human being, and they're empowered by the Lord. So the word Shakti Avesh, it's you can split it up into 2 words, it's Shakti and Avesha. So when the Lord Himself expands, displaying particular power of His opulences, He is known as a Sakshat. So when he empowers a living entity with some particular Shakti power that is for some specific activity, this represents him as calling him an Avesha incarnation. So Sakshat and Avesha. So Avesha means Lord's energy or Krishna's potency, which runs through the jiva. And once that potency energy runs through the jiva, we see that that jiva can do inconceivable things, things that a normal human like me or everyone listening, any normal human cannot do those things without that potency running through them. So that really differentiates the difference between a jiva and a Shakti Avesha avatar. So they're the same, except that the Shakti Avesh avatar has Krishna's potency running through their body. So, so a very good example of a Shakti Avesh avatar this was actually given by Bhakti Charu Maharaj. He said that Srila Prabhupada was actually a very good example of this, because can any normal human being do what he did, going overseas at the age of 70 with no money? He started this movement with nothing, and now we see that um, the prediction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Prabhupada spread is now in every town, every country in the world. So we see this cannot be done by a normal jiva. So definitely that Prabhupada was the Shaktivesha avatar. So um, all these examples I've given of the four Kumaras, Vyasadeva, Parshuram, they're all good examples of a Shaktivesha avatar. So they do something wonderful even though they are a jiva, because they have the potency of Krishna empowering and inducing them. So the question arises from this, that does Krishna lack any potency? His potency is unlimited, but sometimes he delivers that potency for a task to be done by someone else. And thus, like I've said numerous times, Shaktivesha avatar. So before we get into the teachings of Rishabdev, I'll tell you a little bit about Rishabdev, Lord Rishabdev. So once there was a king called King Nabi. So he was the oldest son of Agnidra, and King Nabi wanted to have sons, and unto it he went. Sorry, he underwent severe austerities and penances, and he performed many sacrifices along with his wife Meru Devi. And all these sacrifices and everything, they were all made to Lord Vishnu, who we know he is the master of all sacrifices. So, question to everyone. So, does anyone know how many sons Rishabdev had? So I can see all you guys banging. Yes, he had 100 sons. So, out of the 100 sons, the first son was Bharat Maharaj, and in fact, he was the one who led to to name the land that we all call India. He was the originator, and now we see the name as Bharat. So after he had after Bharat Maharaj, there was 9 other sons that he had, and these 9 sons became yogis. And another famous name for them are the Navir Yogendras. So these are Kavi, Avir, Antraksha, Prabhuda, Pipalanya, Avirhotra, Drimula, Kamasa, and Karabanjana. And the rest of the sons, so Bharat Maharaj, the 9 Yuvakyendras, and the rest of the sons, they all became Kshatriyas. So Lord Rishabdev's eldest son, Bharata, he is made king, and Lord Rishabdev is instructing all of his sons together. Um, yeah, this is what these prayers, these verses entail. That Rishabdev is talking to his son. So it is the duty of a father. So Rishabdev, sorry, I should give you more context. Rishabdev is retiring at this point. So not our type of retiring from materialistic life, but to give away all his duties as a king and then go to the forest. So we might think, what is his duty as a king or as a father before he takes retirement? But there's a very important point here. Why was the king retiring? He has everything in the world. All of his sons are capable of running. Why does he have to retire? And this is because of the Vedic system. It is if me, or if a king and all the other normal human beings, if we reach a certain age of retirement, it's we're not going to retire, because it's not in our duty, or it's not in what we've learned or what we've grown up with. So in that time, even if you're a king or if you're a normal human, any normal person living at a certain age, there was a time where you would retire. So not because one is king and one has ample opportunity to enjoy or have sense enjoyment, therefore he should indulge in sense enjoyment without retiring from his family. So this is actually written by Prabhupada. So this is not the Vedic system. The Vedic system, the Vedic system's aim is for us to elevate ourselves so that we find ourselves linking up with the perfection of life, which is to live a Krishna conscious life, to live a pious life, a blissful life, a life full of purity. So we see that, yeah. So we see nowadays our form of retirement in Australia. The retirement age is, I think, 67. So when people retire at 67, the only motive to work towards the age of retirement is that after retirement they get superannuation and then they get to spend that money and get more sense enjoyment. But if you think about it, what will that entail? You're making money now, right now. You're spending that money on things that you enjoy right now. But the only change is you have more money. That's not really retiring as such. It's just that you won't be working. You have more free time on your hands. It's not. It's not the Vedic system of retirement. Yeah. So we see kids, or we even see normal like people that work in a business, and we talk to them. We say, "Oh, so when are you going to retire?" The usually the main answers are when I have a lot of money, when all of my houses have been paid off, when my kids are settled, when my kids have had a family. After all this, and you're 65, 67, 68, 70, 75, 80, and then one day when you're like, okay, now it's time to take sannyas, I'm just going to go to the forest and start preaching and start listening to Krishna Katha. Next day, bam, that's it. Your end of your life. That's why it is very important that from a young age we are brought up with this Krishna conscious movement, so that we, by the time we're at that age of death, we've already done a lot of things in our life where we're chanting, we're eating prasadam. Our life is pure. When we spend 70 years contemplating that, okay, when I'm old, I'll go back to my religion, I'll go back to Krishna. But the fact is, it's not that easy. You can't go back to Krishna in 1, 2 months. You need lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes worth of practice just to think about and remember Krishna. And I'm a perfect example of this. When I started chanting, it was so hard for me to even do one round in the morning or even getting up early. For me, early was 9 o'clock, 9:30, like that. And now, when you actually start doing it and you start having that routine for like you practice, it becomes a lot easier. Now when not me, but now when you ask other people to chant or who have been doing it for a while, it becomes so much easier for them. So Lord Rishabdev is advising and instructing his sons about his retirement. Again, he could enjoy his kingdom. Just like now, at the present moment, neither a king nor a family man wants to retire. So even when you ask a beggar on the street, a person who has a family, even if they're in the greatest difficulty in the world, they wouldn't agree with you when it comes to retirement. This is because that person, or even all people nowadays, have no Vedic training. That's another word Prabhupada uses, Vedic training. That we're not brought up with that system. So by the end of his life, he'll just stick to his family life and not have any form of Krishna consciousness in his brain, in his life, any part of his life. From waking up in the morning to going to sleep, nothing will be related to Krishna. So Prabhupada gives an example of Mahatma Gandhi. He says that Mahatma Gandhi had got his Swarajya, which is his wish that the Britishers would leave India. So, but still, even after they left India, he still wouldn't give up his politics. He was considered a Mahatma, which is a great personality, but yet he was still meddling with politics. So, like he was meddling so much that people became disgusted with his behavior, and thus we see that at the time of his death, in a report, it said that maybe 6 or 7 groups of people were wanting to kill him. So we see that just because of so Prabhupada would say that nobody would retire voluntarily unless he is killed by somebody or he is killed by the laws of mature nature. So I thought that was a very beautiful point in terms of our lives now, that we never think about this stuff right now because we might be young or we might be at an age where retirement isn't an option. But it's the truth that we won't retire until we keep making, okay, I'll go for the extra money, go for the extra money. So where does that stop? You might get so much money, but you still won't be satisfied with it. So in Bhagavad Gita 7.14, is a very beautiful verse. It says, Devi hiesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam taryatite. So this divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So Maya is so strong that a person who's working in this modern age will think, I can't retire. Who will take care of my children? I can't retire. Who will take care of my wife? I can't retire. Who will take care of the company? The company cannot function without my work. But this is all false. Like Prabhupada gives an example in one of his lectures. He says that a person, if he chooses to make a decision, if it's the right decision, people will become attracted to you. If it's the wrong decision, that normal life that you had before the change will be unbearable. So in the Shvetasvatara Upanishad 4.10, it says that although Maya or illusion is false or temporary, the background of Maya is the supreme magician, the personality of Godhead, who is Maheshwara, the supreme controller. So Prabhupada, in one of his lectures, he would say that he was telling a story about himself. And he said that I was thinking when I was a householder, several times there was an indication given by my Guru Maharaj that I should give up my family and become a sannyasi and preach this Krishna conscious movement. In several ways, they were hints from my spiritual master, but still I was not willing. I was thinking, if I go away, then my family, my sons, my daughters, they will all suffer. So see, it's not just a normal human being. At the time before a person has met Krishna conscious the ISKCON movement, they are still thinking that okay, I have to worry about this, worry about this, worry about this. So it says here that Lord Rishabdev, before he took retirement, he took upon the duty as his father to give instructions on how to look to his sons, to how to look after family affairs, personal affairs, spiritual advancement, and basically everything from start to finish that they need in their life. So another thing that we need to understand that we need to depend upon Krishna. Like we say nowadays, that we need to trust the process. The people keep saying, even at universities, schools, if you trust the process, you do everything on time, your life will be set. But the fact is that if Krishna is unhappy with your work, then your life is not set. So if Krishna is happy with our progress, wherever we go, people will be pleased. Everyone will be kind. Let's say a person takes a sannyas. People will be attracted by his effulgence because he keeps saying Krishna's names. He's always jolly. He's always happy. But on the other hand, if Krishna is unhappy with our progress, then even our family life will be uncomfortable. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, at a certain age, it is indicated that one should retire from family life. So the first verse of Rishabdev, he says, Rishabha vacha nayam deho deha bhajam nirloke astan kamam arate vidbhujamye tapo divyam putrapayena sattvam tudyet yasmad brahma saukyam swanantam. So Rishabdev, he is instructing. He says, my dear sons, do not think that this particular body, this particular human body, is equal to the body of cats and dogs and hogs. Don't consider like that. Yes, particularly in this verse, Rishabdev has mentioned vid bhujam. So vid bhujam means stool eater. So as in the human society, a person who is a dog eater is considered the lowest in the human society. Similarly, in the animal society, an animal which eats stool, is considered the lowest. So eating is a very important thing. If we eat like cats and dogs, then you will become like cats and dogs. This human form. Similarly, if we work hard, very hard, like cats and dogs, then what's the value of the human life? What is the difference between us as humans and dogs and cats if we're doing the same thing? Yeah, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's the common things that we're all doing. Animals are doing it, humans are doing it, and what's the difference? So we are basically animals, but the only difference between, only real difference between a human and an animal is that humans have the ability to conceive religion, who is God, um, and all the concepts that we're talking about today. An animal doesn't have the mental capacity to understand things like this, but we have the mental capacity to understand this. Thus, we've been given this body for this reason. If we were given, if we had only come to this earth just to eat meat or eat or sleep around or be lazy or just only work on our families, then we would be sent as a dog or a cat. But the fact is, we're here as humans on Thursday at 7:56, listening to Bhagavad Gita, which means that we're doing something right. We're listening to Krishna Katha, we're doing something right. We've gone away from eating meat, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and we've stepped outside of that to make better for the betterment of our life. So if you ask a normal person on the street what's the difference between you and a donkey, some things they might say is that we have feelings, but the fact is the donkey has feelings. When you see animals dying, they're screaming. So if that's not feelings, if that's not emotion, then what is? Then he would say that we have the ability to communicate with each other. But the fact is that we can communicate with each other, but the animals also communicate with each other. So it's just because we don't understand it, that doesn't mean they're not communicating. So we have feelings, they have feelings. We can communicate, they can communicate. Then what's the difference? So like I said, there is no fundamental difference between a normal human and a donkey. The only difference is our knowledge to understand. And that's what we're doing, which is good. This is one of the major things that Rishabdev really emphasizes on. So in um, this human form is meant for austerity and penance. So we should voluntarily accept some regulative principles, even if we don't like them. This is called as tapasya or tapa. So tapasya means if a person is addicted to, let's say, smoking. So if they're addicted to smoking, and let's say they're a devotee, and their spiritual master says don't smoke, or let's not even say they're a devotee, someone older than them says don't smoke, and he gives up smoking, but he might feel uncomfortable, and it will be very like inconvenienced. But because the spiritual master has ordered, he gives it up. That is real tapasya. Giving up something even though you don't feel 100% about it. You are inconvenienced. You are feeling uncomfortable. Waking up at early in the morning, you feel very uncomfortable. You feel very inconvenienced. You feel like, why do I have to wake up early if I don't have anything to do that early? There's always things to do early in the morning. Chant your rounds, make bhog for Bhagwan, read katha, listen to a class, so many things. And that's every day. That should be a routine to wake up early in the morning, to chant your rounds and everything. That is real tapasya. Initially, it's tapasya because it's very hard to do all the time. But then once you get into that routine over a long period of time, it gets removed from an obstacle to it becomes your friend. And then you embrace it, and then it becomes part of your life. So, um, yeah. So once a man, a story. Once a man was chased by an elephant, and in a forest, and seeing no respite, the man climbed a tree, and he slipped, and when he was about to fall, but he grabbed onto a branch, and he looked up and found that the elephant was waiting to devour him, and two rats, one white and one black, they were nibbling onto the branch that he was hanging to. So imagine it's a very unfortunate situation this man has gotten into, but he's hanging there. He understood that soon the branch will fall to the ground. So as the man looked down, he discovered that there were snakes there as well. So suddenly, a drop of honey fell onto his face. So he pulled his tongue out and licked the drop of honey. So there was a honeycomb between the two branches that he was holding the branch. So due to the disturbance caused by the holding and the shaking of the branch, the bees were out to bite him. And at the same time, the honey was oozing from the cone. So forgetting the obvious, which was killer elephant, snakes that can also kill you, rats which are biting onto the only thing that are separating you from the killer elephant and snakes, and bees which are biting your whole body. What he chose to do was to adjust his body so that his tongue could take the drops of honey directly onto his tongue. So you think about this. This is what he was thinking about. Now he is happy indeed, and he forgets his situation that he's in. So this analogy is actually from Mahabharata, and it perfectly fits in with a common man. A man, um, a man. Sorry. The man represents the common man, or ourselves. We are stuck in this precarious situation of this material world, of this samsara. And then death. The death is elephant. It's chasing us constantly throughout our life. Even though right now I'm sitting here, I don't know. I could die soon, but we don't know anything about that. But the fact is, it's coming towards us at a rapid pace. So then the death is the elephant. The rats represent our days. So the white represents the daytime, and the black rat represents the evening time. So they are slowly reducing our age, day and night, day and night, day and night, day. So the hissing snakes, they represent the big obstacles in our life. The honeybees represent the day-to-day problems. They keep fighting. But the snakes, they're one snake could come up and bite you at any time, and that's a big obstacle. The sweet honey represents the pleasures of this world, and in its temporary form. So we can accept a lending hand of Krishna, and we can save ourselves a lot of trouble. But we are too attached to the drops of honey, and that's us right now. So what we think is the tapasya is actually reaching out for that honey, but the real tapasya is not doing bad things in our day-to-day life, so that situation is upon us. When a big obstacle happens in our life, the fact is that big obstacle isn't that as big as we think it is. Let's say, you're not getting a job, or you're not getting into the right university degree, or you're not getting married. Let's say that's for an example. Those are some, you think of it, oh my, big obstacles. But the fact is, they're not big obstacles. The biggest obstacle is when we're dying. That's the biggest obstacle. That what are we going to be doing at that time? If before when you're about to die, and then you're like, okay, I'll be cheeky. I'll just say Krishna's name 1 second before I die, and that's it. I'll pull a Jamin, and I'll say my son's name. I'll name my sons after Krishna, and then once I'm about to die, I'll just be like, I'm saved. It doesn't work like that. The fact is, when we're about to die, we remember the thing that which is most prominent in our life. And if at that time, if that son, which it probably won't be, or that name that you're thinking of, it probably won't be the most prominent because you haven't practiced, you haven't chanted enough, or you haven't done good pious things in your life, how are you going to remember that name? It's not as easy as, okay, I'm about to die, okay, last breath, Krishna. No, it doesn't work like that. So, thus, we think yeah. So our real tapasya is not doing these bad things and following the regulative principles in order to lead a full life of bliss and discipline. So let's continue with Rishabdev. So Rishabdev says, Deha bhajam. So meaning one who has accepted this material body. So actually, this body has no existence. It is simply a covering. Therefore, it's called Maya. In Madhya Lila, it says, Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andhakara. Yahan Krishne Tahan Nahi Maya Hara Adhikara. It means Krishna is compared to sunshine and Maya is compared to darkness. Wherever there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. As soon as one takes to Krishna consciousness, the darkness of illusion, the influence of the external energy will immediately vanish. But it is said that Krishna is present in the mind. There is no possibility that our mind will be agitated by mind's influence. If we are thinking of Krishna constantly, we don't give our mind any space to think about anything else. That's the real tapasya. That's the real um, practice that we need to develop throughout our life. So, if one thinks that, if one thinks, if one always thinks of Krishna and how to serve him best, then one's mind will be free from the hold of Maya. So Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj, he says that we need to hardwire the parts of our brain so that it's functioning, so that we remember and never forget the holy name of the Lord. That is the most important. Everyone has had this experience before, that at night we forget that this body. We act like we're in another body. We're walking around the place, walking in different places, we're creating different situations. And every day, every night we see that we're in a completely different body. Let's say in this body you can't do something. In that body you can do triple, quadruple, even better than what you could ever imagine. So so actually, we are processing the gross and the subtle body. So when we act on the subtle body, the gross body doesn't exist. But the fact is, we are living in both the subtle and the gross body. The day body is also a dream. What we're living in now is also a dream. But we are so foolish that we can't understand this fact. These concepts of subtle and gross bodies are supposed to be understood by a man who has the understanding of the Vedas, who considers Krishna to be the number one supreme personality of Godhead and the truth of all truths. So this daytime and nighttime, we work so hard that we work hard all day and sometimes even into the night. But what is the aim of all this? The aim is to satisfy our senses. Once Prabhupada was on a plane and he saw a man for 2 whole hours trying really hard, doing some calculation for his work. And in the class that Prabhupada was giving, he hypothetically said, he hypothetically asked the man, he said, why are you working so hard? What is the aim? And Prabhupada responded for his own answer because it was a hypothetical question. He responded by saying, sense gratification. I have a big family to maintain. I have to maintain them. I have got so much responsibility. But at the end of the day, that responsibility, that family, is all sense gratification. Some people argue about things like philanthropism or humanitarianism or nationalism or socialism. All these isms, as Prabhupada used to say, they all have one goal. And we might think, oh, he's doing such a good job, he's doing such good this, such good that. But the fact is, he's doing all those things so that he can satisfy the senses of not only himself, but every single person that he is attracting with that ism. So not only one, but everyone's senses. So in Bhagavatam it says, Evam kayena manasa vachasa cha manogatam parichara mano bhagwan bhaktimat paricharaya pumsam amayanam samyak bhajatam bhavavardhanaha shreyo disti abhimatvam yadham deshu dehinam. So it says, anyone who thus engages in devotional service of the Lord sincerely and seriously with his mind, body, and words, who is fixed in the activities of the prescribed devotional method, is blessed by the Lord according to his desire. If a devotee desires material religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation from the material world, he is awarded these results. So this is a very important last part. He is awarded these results. So these isms that we're talking about, these are only achieved as one progresses down the path of devotional service. You might see a person who is doing pious things, doing good things for humans. He might have good done for himself. He might get a lot of money to do good for others. But then you might see other examples of this. So now we're going to really dig deep into some of the teachings of Rishabdev. So there are 6 main teachings I'm going to be going through in the 2 classes. So we'll go through 3 today and 3 next week. So the 6 teachings that we'll be going through is, first one is that purity leads to fearlessness. Second, transcendental knowledge is a heart-to-heart process. Third, austerity leads to bliss. Fourth, respect austerity in everyone. Fifth, austerity pleases Krishna. And sixth, don't ignore voluntary austerity. So firstly, purity leads to fearlessness. So Rishabdev appeared as the son of King Navi and Meru Devi. So the root of his appearance was the several austerities and penances followed by his death. When Prajapati Sutapa and Prishni wanted to have children, they performed austerities in the forest for 12,000 years, according to demigod calculations. And eventually the Lord was pleased. Because the first word he gave to Brahma was tapa, and he was very much relishes voluntary acceptance of austerity. So that word is very important. Voluntary, not forced upon, voluntary. So we cannot really try to follow the austerities that all these great Mahajans have followed. But to the best of our ability, if we try to follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, Prabhupada's instructions in all these beautiful books that he's written, then we can get something out of this life. And to the best of our ability, our life must be pure. Before we think about these feelings, purity of life is very important. Purity of existence will give us fearlessness for austerity. Because we are impure, we are always afraid. Abhyayam stitmasam suddhir jnana yoga vishatitaha. Krishna says in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that if you want to lead a fearless life on this planet, then this belief has to be allowed. Abhyam Sava Shamsuddhi Tattva, the quality of your existence. Abhyayam, you can only have. The Tattva is purified. So Samshuddhir, Shuddhi. So Shuddhi means purification. And Samshuddhir means thoroughly. So as soon as we try to understand these things, we know where to begin from. The beginning of purity is the most important part. So let's say examples of this. In order to be pure, let's say we begin our day. We wake up early in the morning. Okay, so that leads us with a pure mindset because that's what we need to do. We wake up early in the morning. We chant our rounds. We've chanted our rounds. We've read one of Prabhupada's books in the morning, and that's a perfect start to your pure day. Secondly, our food that we eat. So let's say you wake up in the morning and you start eating meat. First thing in the morning, you eat meat. And that just ruins the flow of your whole day. That you have another jiva inside of your body that you've eaten just because you like the taste of it. When there's obvious and a lot of alternatives. So the beginning, like I've said, the beginning part is so essential that during the beginning part, it is so important to talk to elder, senior devotees and on how to maintain always doing your day-to-day activities. So once you begin and you go ahead, this is how the Bhagavad Gita insists that there are so many stories in Srimad Bhagavatam where people at the start of their journey, it's so hard for them to progress. And then eventually because of that constant everyday routine, they step up. So particularly we're discussing the appearance of Rishabdev. So we are seeing the same thing here. So throughout Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and any Vedic literature, the same knowledge flows. There is no higher knowledge than this. Nobody can achieve even a glance of the supreme absolute truth or experience a bit of supreme absolute without being clear of all intoxication. So classic examples, especially in this life, is that eating and drinking. The very classic examples that we see that people are eating and drinking all the time, and that ruins that purity in their body. It ruins everything because once they eat or drink, it's tough to go back to Krishna consciousness. Once we start off our day with perfect food, we get up early, finish our rounds, everything. By the time we are ready and let's say we have to go to work, we've had the perfect start to our pure day. Then during the day, we complete, let's say we haven't completed our rounds in the morning, we complete our rounds during the day, and then during our lunch break or something, we read a book, Prabhupada's book. We eat some food which is meat free, onion and garlic free. Perfect again. In the evening, same thing again. We do RT, we hand around, read more, complete the whole day is perfect. Now that is a pure day in the life that we need to really work towards. So the second one is that transcendental knowledge, the heart um, is the heart to hear process. So it is difficult to experience the supreme absolute truth in this world, particularly during this time of Kali Yuga. Like Prabhupada used to say that Kali Yuga is roaring. So, but we are fortunate to come across these scriptures, which are very favorably presented with equivalent translations in English, translations purports by Prabhupada to explain, to allow us to understand better. And whoever gives us spiritual life, he is pious. So that means all our elders, all our spiritual guidance people, all senior devotees. So it doesn't matter who they are, but the fact is we should not neglect the people who have preached to us. They have sacrificed, um, um, not sacrificed, sorry. They have taken their time so that people like me, we can understand the scriptures. So uh, let's try to relish this and remember that knowledge cannot be imparted by a mental process. All other knowledge, such as uh, engineering or medicine, all that knowledge, it's all impacted on a mental level, not on a spiritual level. So in the end of the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Indriyani Paryani Ahur, that our senses are very gross and are much finer than our indriyas in the mind. So our mind is finer than the senses. So we see our senses, they are gross. But the controller of indriyas is finer than that. Because the controller is finer, we depend upon it to guide us in the right way. It is finer than the gross thing. Yeah. So, an example of this, we see our eyes. If we use the eyes to see nice things, photos of Krishna, devotees, other devotees, prasadam, our eyes are purified. Our nose, same thing, smelling flowers after they've been offered, smelling prasadam, your daily activities, smelling things that are nice, nose is pure. With our mouth, speaking good, not speaking bad of others. Our eating good food, meat free, onion and garlic free, cruelty free, everything, it all makes an impact. But the main thing out of all of these is our mind, which controls everything. And our mind is the hardest to control out of everything. And that is because it's always wandering from place to place. If right now I think of, let's say, Sachin Tendulkar. But right now in my brain, I have a photo of Sachin Tendulkar in front of me. That's how strong the mind is, that I can see something, let's not say everyone's not going to be thinking of Sachin Tendulkar, but let's say that's how quick our mind is to wander from things. Let's say I'm chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare. Oh, cricket's on. Okay. So now my mind's wandered. And my round halfway through, it's not pure. You might still complete the round, but your mind has wandered to something that it shouldn't have wandered. So it is said that, yeah. So the third and final one is that austerity leads to bliss. So an example of this is, let's say, a book of people that distribute, devotees that distribute books or distribute prasadam. When they offer that to the person that they're giving the book or the food to, um, it's that warm feeling in your heart. That's that bliss. That's what we need to experience all the time. That always doing good things for others and allowing that you are the servant. You are never higher than the servant. You're the servant of the servant. So we make, so like I said, the third one, austerity leads to bliss. We may come across finer activities in any other faith. Faith may be different, but religion is one. This is a very subtle point. This is actually a point by Mahavishnu Saimara. And everything, he said, so he said this, everything is coming from Brahma. Whether one is Christian or Muslim or Hare Krishna, everyone is coming from Brahma, and that is only described in Srimad Bhagavatam. He also says, otherwise, in all other faiths, a fraction of things is taken and they interpret in their own way. This is how it happened, and that is why everyone can follow Prabhupada, because Prabhupada is the only person who gives us the realization about our own existence. Otherwise, we will be completely roaming about like dogs and cats. We are doing that. We can imagine that how were we before we look up before we took up this process. So yesterday, so this is again a story that Maharaj said. So that yesterday we are all living an obnoxious life, but now because we've connected with a devotee, that our life has improved. That we're here listening to Krishna, so we can see that same thing here now. That a lot of people right now might be outside eating meat, might be drinking, might be mating with other humans. But the fact is, on Thursday evening at 8:20, you guys, everyone is here listening. So that shows us that we're on the right track. It's just how do we continually progress and continually um, lift ourselves so that one day we're not stuck here. So Mahavishnu Goswami again, he says that how can people assemble here at 4 a.m. in the morning? So again, how can devotees do that at 4 a.m. in the morning? We are here for the last 2-3 weeks, and you people had to go to work, attend Mangalarti, and then Bhagavatam class. This is austerity because you are working also. Maharaj then says that I am taking rest, but you people, it was torture really. Waking up at 4 a.m., chanting Bhagavatam class, getting ready, going to work for 8, 9, 10, 11 hours, coming back tired, waking up 4 a.m. next morning. Imagine that routine. Right now, it sounds not. It doesn't sound awful, but some people might find this very confronting. That I can't wake up at 4 o'clock every morning. But the fact is, if you've been waking up at 9 o'clock every day, and now that's your routine. Imagine when you were 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You wake up at 6 o'clock, and then now you wake up at 5 and then 4. It becomes a routine. It's not that big of an issue that we think of it. Our brain, first thing it says 4 a.m. sleep. But the fact is, if we sleep early, we wake up early. So um, he said, Maharaj said that you perform the austerities, but I don't know whether you feel that you need to or not. But I can see that in all your faces you are glowing. So all the devotees in Maharaj's classes, Maharaj says that their faces were glowing just because they attend the class and they follow the routine. Why? Because they incur voluntary austerity. Voluntary. Not by some Prabhuji telling you, Prabhuji, can you please take this prashadam? Prabhuji, can you serve this to me? Prabhuji, can you take this book and give this to someone? No. It has to come from your own heart that I want to give this book to someone. I want to give this to someone. I want to give prashadam to Prabhuji. I'm going to eat last after everyone's finished eating because I want everyone to be fully satisfied before. That is a real devotion. Uh, Bhagavad Gita 7.28, it says, Yesham tu ananta gatam papam dhyananam punya karmanam te danva moha nirmukta bhajate mam jadavrataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Sometimes people are surprised to see young men and women take Krishna consciousness seriously. And I see this now as well. People, when they first come to a temple, they come to the temple, the young kids, they're just sitting behind them, just peeking out and looking. Hopefully no one calls upon me to come sit at the front. I remember me when I first started coming to our hall programs here, that I used to sit, my dad used to sit at the front, I used to sit right at the back, and I would just pray that the speaker wouldn't make eye contact with me. Because then once the eye contact is made, then he might ask me a question. He might ask me to come forward and sit with the other kids. He might ask me to sing something. So my aim at always when I used to come was to sit right at the back and not make eye contact with the speaker. So that was that was that's the mentality of young people. But the fact is, once you start, like let's say playing an instrument, like harmonium, you start singing, you start actually getting involved in the program, getting involved in kirtans, getting involved in the classes, you become used to it. It's not that big of an issue. Before, let's say I have to go in public, wear dhoti. I would always wear jeans or something like that, and I would feel more comfortable with that because just in case someone saw me, I would have my kurta, but then I would have my jeans. But now it doesn't matter because once people the other day when there was at Harina, I was wearing dhoti and one of my friends was there, and I talked to the friend, and the friend was interested in coming to the program. Turns out his parents actually came to an ISKCON program. So it's all about how to connect more people to the movement, and also the people that are already part of the movement, how to help them progress up. We should really empower young people, especially young kids, to go to the front, serve prashadam, to sing, to say the shloka or something like that. And always, we should wear dhoti, wear kurta. This is part of our religion. We should embrace it. So, like I said, be by giving up sinful activity, illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, and strictly following the injunctions given by the spiritual master, they have become purified of all contamination. They can therefore fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. So this is something that we can follow. That once we give up the four, it's not too hard, four things: illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. Gambling, very easy to get rid of. Just don't give money to other people to make more money because it doesn't work. Intoxication, why do you need to get intoxicated? I see nowadays when we especially I'm a youth. Let's say youth nowadays they feel like that okay, if I'm going to a party, they're all gonna be drinking, I have to drink. When you see people drinking, the first reaction that they have after taking a sip of their drink is, oh, that tastes so bad. Because the fact is, it probably does. And they just drink it because everyone else is peer pressure. Everyone else is drinking. Everyone else is thinking they're having a good time. Their life is a mess. Their parents are probably looking for them. And they get that 2-3 minutes of happiness and they think, okay, that's it, drinking is life. The fact is, that's not how it works. Same thing with meat eating. There's so many alternatives to meat eating. Meat is, think of it as this, that jiva wanted to live as well. If that jiva listened to Katha somewhere, or listened to Kirtan far, far away, listened to something, next life, he would have a human life. But now, that jiva, they don't even get to come out of the shed that they're killed in. They get killed in the shed and straight on to people. And we are happily eating it. This is a social norm that we're living in now in Kali Yuga. That people are happily eating a piece of meat on their plate. So we see all these things, they're very sensitive topics, but the fact is that it's wrong. Eating meat, intoxication, illicit sex, gambling, they're all wrong. I have a very beautiful two verses here, and I'll finish off with these two verses. The first one is Mam cha yo vya vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityetan brahma bhuya kalpate. It says, one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, and only transcends the modes of mature nature, and thus comes to the level of a monk. And also, Bahunam Janmanam, they very famous verse. Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Atma Sudurlabaha. It says, after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. So it is said that if we live our life with purity, then everything will be alright. So I'll finish off there. Thank you all for listening. I know I can be very boring at times. I'm very sorry. If I have made a mistake, please forgive me. And for next week, we'll be going through the last three teachings of Rishabdev, which are respect, austerity in everyone. Austerity pleases Krishna, and don't ignore voluntary austerity. So thank you. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. Thank you, everyone.